Stop by Bill Bird Kia and test drive the new 2025 Kia. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. The 2025 Kia SUV family has movement that inspires. Drive away today in a new 2025 Kia Soul, Seltos, Sportage, Sorento, or Telluride. Fuel the thrill and command the road in the luxury of a 2025 Kia K5 sedan from Bill Bird Kia. Performance, power, and design built for you. Spark inspiration in the all-electric 2025 EV9. It's a modern masterpiece, fast charging, rugged, and roomy. Bill Bird Kia is the original home for the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by 2435 East 15th Street, Panama City, or anytime at BillBirdKia.PanamaCity.com. We'll treat you like family and give you the peace of mind you can trust. Your local community dealer is Bill Bird Kia.
Community Landscaping, your local dedicated experts, providing top-notch lawn care services and transforming your outdoor space. Expert mowing and trimming, precision edging and blowing, irrigation solutions, hardscaping designs, and even low-maintenance artificial turf. Community Landscaping, your full-service landscape design and maintenance company in Panama City Beach, Inlet Beach, and 30A. Call Community Landscaping for a free quote, 850-704-5267.
Your home for Super Bowl 59. WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota, ESPN Northwest Florida. The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air.
Live and local.
Weekdays from 4 till 6.
This thing is going to be a financial and cultural disaster.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Whopper, 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 whopper.
The Afternoon Underdogs are on the air. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Keep making noise! Keep making noise! Yeah!
What's going on, Northwest Florida? You're now riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes, along with Coach Brian Haddad, and we are the Afternoon Underdogs. I want to remind you guys before we get started on this beautiful Monday afternoon, nice and cold, you know, running out of cold days already, aren't we, Coach Brian Haddad?
This doesn't change. I'm going to move to Florida.
Oh, are you? You going to go a little bit further south?
This is ridiculous.
It's not that bad. We don't have enough of this. Yesterday we woke up and it was all frozen outside. Felt like I was standing on Lambeau Field for a little bit.
I will say the rain made it very easy to sleep last night, so I did appreciate that.
Well, it ran from like 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., like 12 hours of nonstop. And if you got that tin roof, it just makes it that much better. But do want to remind you guys about Holland Hearts, ESPN Northwest Florida, and the Magic Express. You can win 2 passes to watch the Orlando Magic host the Sacramento Kings on Saturday, March 29th. You're going to be watching it from a luxury suite, free food during the game, plus your hotel is included in this road trip. We're going to be taking a bus load of sports fanatics to ride the Holland Hearts ESPN Northwest Florida Magic Express. And to enter, it's so easy. You just open up the ESPN Northwest Florida app and hit the Enter Contest button. That's brought to you by PCB Hobby, Panama City Toyota, Holland Hearts, and Fairfield, Hampton Inn on Thomas Drive, and Home 2 Suites. Let's get that contest popping. Of course, it doesn't happen until March 29th, but we'll be selecting the winners in the not-so-distant future. So you want to go get that app, just go to your Google Play Store or your Apple Store, type in 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. When's the last time you've been to an NBA game?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the last time. I think the last time I went to an NBA game, if I'm not mistaken, was probably when I was a kid watching the Charlotte Hornets when we lived in Charlotte.
This is before you were born. The last regular season NBA game.
How do you know that this was
I do know because it was Patrick Ewing's rookie year. I was visiting my aunt and uncle in New York, and I got to see the Knicks at the Garden, but Ewing was out injured, and the Knicks got crushed. I think they played the Mavericks, I think it was. But, this is like 86 maybe, so long time ago. I don't think I've been to one since I saw a preseason game in the 90s, but I think that's it. I'm not sure I've been to an NBA game because we didn't have them in Nashville. So, I think that's it.
I've always wanted to go down there to Orlando to check out a Pacers and Magic game, which those Pacers might be involved in my best of the sports weekend, and they might be involved in Cleveland Brad's worst of the sports weekend, but we'll find out when we get to 5 o'clock. We are doing our best and worst of the sports weekend today at 5 o'clock. If you have one, you can text those in at 850-215-6290. We don't have a phone guest today, so with that being said, you can call in at any portion of the show with your best and worst of the weekend, 850-215-6290. Coach Brian, next Monday, following the Afternoon Underdogs, it's time for the national championship, and it is two of my most hated teams across the board. And I've heard some people say, oh, it just makes it unwatchable for me. Honestly, I like the fact that I get to look at which team do I dislike less. And I'm going to ride with that team, root for that team, and I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be a good national championship. I think the way that Texas hung in there with Ohio State makes this game a little bit more interesting for me as well. And how about this? If you're Indiana, you get to hang your hat on the fact that the two teams playing in the national championship are your only two L's on your schedule this year. I think that's pretty impressive. What did you think of, let's start with Notre Dame, Penn State. What did you think of Notre Dame outlasting Penn State there in the waning moments of that game and then kicking the field goal to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of what I expected in general, although Penn State, was a little bit tougher than I thought. I have not been a believer in them all year, and they've consistently proved me wrong. I mean, they're not a team that's dominant or, just firing on all cylinders, but it was one of those teams that you kind of start to like because they find a way to get it done, and they just came up a little short. Drew Aller didn't have his best game by any stretch, but, as much as I'm not a Notre Dame guy, I've never been a Notre Dame guy, it's, if you're not tied to Ohio State, it's kind of hard not to pull for this Notre Dame team. I mean, there's no superstars on it. You got a young head coach who says all the right things. Looks like he does everything the right way. I love him in his press conferences. I love his passion on the field. I love the way his defense plays. I mean, that reminds me of 80s and 90s football. So the Notre Dame team has got, kind of an affinity there. But then again, it's Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is kind of the way, I guess Alabama's probably taken that a little bit, but Notre Dame was very much thought of the way the Yankees were, the Celtics were, or whatever. It was kind of the team that always had their chest out, and it was kind of like, if you weren't a big Notre Dame fan, everybody else hated them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's turned a little bit. That being said, Ohio State, I thought at the beginning of the year was going to win the national championship just based on their roster. They had a very lackluster regular season, but the Michigan game woke them up. And what's the old saying? Never, don't tug on Superman's cape.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks kind of like they woke up and were fired up since then. And they've, they didn't dominate Texas, but they felt in control every game since. And, that's going to be a good matchup because that's, going to be some good hard-hitting football. Marcus Freeman, no stranger to Ohio State.
Right.
Ryan Day, no stranger to Marcus Freeman. I mean, the whole thing, it's just, there's no SEC team. And in some years, like Ohio State, Oregon, I didn't care to watch.
That doesn't really bother me at all.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, if you're like a long-time college football fan,
this is huge.
That's blue blood traditional football that I think the ratings are actually going to be really good on this one, even in the South.
Ohio State is one of the most watched football teams anyways. Notre Dame kind of speaks for itself, and they're making a boatload of money just for how they're getting to where they're getting to and being an independent team, which a lot of people think that is maybe a little unfair, but at the end of the day, as long as they can get to where they got to get to while being an independent team, why would you do anything else? If you can make Ohio State, if they make they made the national championship, so I believe they've earned the Big Ten a portion of money, and of that portion of money, they're getting a small portion, $1.01 million, whereas I believe Notre Dame now has won $14 million, maybe $20 million just off getting to the national championship. If you're not going to be penalized for being independent, why would you change anything? Yeah. Now, for the rest of the college football world, I get it. I get it. You would like to see them be in a conference. I think that we all agree that they should be in a conference. But if I'm Notre Dame and no one's forcing my hand to get into a conference, why in the world would I ever think about that if I can make 14 times the amount of money that you're making here in the college football playoffs, and they're not going to slow down anytime soon as long as Marcus Freeman is at the helm there.
Yeah, and no, Notre Dame's not going to change anything, but I get the complaint. I do like the fact that they're not eligible for a first-round bye because they're not in a conference. That at least addresses it.
Yeah, but the first-round bye hurt.
Well, well, I'm not sure it hurt as much as who the teams were that got it.
Okay, but Georgia was the team that got it.
Yeah,
Oregon was the team that got it.
with a backup quarterback.
All right, so we can go to Boise State and Arizona State, and I feel like that argument's fair.
Yeah,
and the backup quarterback argument as well. I have to give you that.
So here's what I'm saying.
Like a standout this year.
Oregon draws the best team out there and a team they only beat by 1.
Right.
So it's not like that was a gimme. Georgia's playing with a backup quarterback, and Boise State and Arizona State, although I like Arizona State, I don't think anybody considered them one of 4. So I don't know that it was so much that the bye hurt them. I just think those were 4 teams who were in situations where it wasn't necessarily advantageous to them to have the bye.
And I'm in agreement with that. I mean, Arizona State and Boise State shouldn't have been the teams with the bye. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much that shuffles everything. I still think when you go 20 or more days without playing a football game, and these other guys have went 10 days without playing a football game, as you mentioned, when you just go in 10, you get that recovery time at that point.
So it's not directly equatable because you have some teams in champion. But look at, Ohio State.
Right.
Ohio State and Notre Dame played the same amount of games.
Yeah.
Because Ohio State wasn't in the national championship game or in the Big Ten championship game. So Notre Dame having to play, they did, they did get the detriment of having one more game where people could get injured. Now, Penn State played an extra game over them.
Yeah.
But most of the teams, honestly, were on the same kind of thing. Penn State's the only one I know of that played in a championship game and was, unless I'm sure. Texas.
Yeah.
So there were 2 teams out there that did that. So I at least liked that they addressed it. But the other thing to consider here, it's not like Notre Dame was just born on third base and was gifted this. They earned their reputation over about 100 years as kind of the team. Now, there's a religious component to that.
You're more of a Jesus. You're
more of a national brand when you're the Catholic University, essentially, of the United States, and so that makes sense. But look, they've earned it. Whether or not they should have their own TV deal, I don't know. But you can't say they're not a draw.
Are we saying that?
Because NBC's not giving them money as a gift.
Are we saying NBC is the Catholic station of the world?
No, I'm saying that they're smart businessmen. And the only reason they keep giving Notre Dame money is they keep making money off of Notre Dame. So I get it.
Through periods where they really weren't that great of a football team, they would find their ways into positions underneath Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly left for LSU, hightailed it for LSU based on the fact that he didn't believe, academically speaking, that LSU or that Notre Dame rather could fit in athletically with the rest of the world. And now the rest of the world, the college football world rather, is catching up due to the transfer portal, due to the NIL, and then due to great coaching on behalf of Marcus Freeman.
Ironically, I think the transfer portal has helped Notre Dame in this respect. I think we talked about it last week, maybe I talked about it on the Hale Show. Notre Dame, one of the things that actually hindered them a little bit was, not so much maybe to the level of Vanderbilt or certainly the Ivies, but their admission standards were higher than a lot of schools they were competing with. And that being said, coming out of high school, it was difficult to get some of those players in. It is a lot easier to admit a student into your university based on, kind of somewhat like-for-like college programs than it is from high school. And so you get these guys who maybe weren't in the best high school situations, maybe didn't have the best family situations, and thus their grades and test scores suffered. You get them a year or two in a college program where you have that great support structure that you do around athletes, and it improves their abilities in school, certainly in their grades and most likely in their test-taking capabilities. So the ability to bring those guys who maybe would not have made the grades coming out of high school who will now, coming out of a sheltered college program, allows Notre Dame to get a level of transfer athlete that they may not have been able to get coming out of high school. So I think that's something that's going to be interesting going forward, watching how Notre Dame is able to attack the transfer portal. Whereas they have been somewhat hamstrung in the high school recruiting.
There you go. Chef Ross says, unless that student's name was Rudy, which we have identified, that was based loosely on a true story with a lot of
Ken Rudiger was real.
No, 100%. Based loosely on a true story. It wasn't a boat as much as a based loose, BLT. Yeah, I'm trying to come up with the acronym on the fly, and that's just a little too fast.
But let me say this, because I don't want to, somehow I turned into the Notre Dame apologist, which certainly I am not.
Yes, you are. That's what it sounded like right now. You're over here. My blood's boiling. I feel like I need to tell you, get off my lawn or get off my chair.
Look, I've been called a lot worse even today. Watch out for next year, because all these Penn State guys now are announcing they're coming back for the most part.
Yeah.
They said 2 running backs both announced today. They're coming back. Drew Aller's coming back. A lot of people had him jumping Milroe as the third. Now, he didn't necessarily do himself any favor, but
neither one of them.
But you keep the core of that team together coming back next year after a year of experience going this deep. Watch out for Penn State next year. But they're going to be a strong, strong team.
Did James Franklin do away with the notion that in big games he just doesn't make the right calls? I mean, you can't blame James Franklin on the throw that Drew Aller made.
All right.
In that call.
Here's me as a coach.
Okay.
We give coaches entirely too much credit. Yes, I said that.
Okay. I agree with
And
that.
we give them entirely too much blame.
I'm right there with you.
Look, I
agree for once.
Yes. I think Franklin has earned some of that reputation. I think he's gambled at times when he didn't need to. It's almost like it's the saying, you outsmart yourself.
Almost.
I think Franklin has done that a couple of times
Dan Campbell
in the past.
at times?
Somewhat.
Yeah,
just you kind of outsmart yourself. It's like, instead of doing kind of the percentage play, I mean, the famous one would be throwing, instead of giving it to Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
At the end, it's kind of that thing. It's like everyone thinks we're going to run it, so we're gonna fool them. We're going to do this.
Yeah, but you do that on maybe third down. Really, you don't. You run the ball again on third down.
But that's what I mean.
Then you throw it on fourth.
There is a notion of wanting to do what the other guy doesn't think you're going to do.
Absolutely.
And sometimes
the element of surprise.
Sometimes you get so caught up in that you don't think, why don't I just go to my bread and butter that always seems to work? So Franklin's been guilty of that a little in the past. I thought he was a little better this year.
Yeah. I mean, look at where he got him to.
But again, that does come with experience.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, he hasn't been in that many huge games. He's been in games
But the record that he has in the big games is not
What
good.
I'm saying is he's been in games against big opponents.
Yeah.
He has not been in a national semifinal.
No, absolutely.
So that experience will help, and we'll have to see. I mean, maybe he'll get worse. Who knows? But I just watch out for Penn State, because as much as I didn't believe in them this year, that core coming back next year, watch out.
Well, and it's also going to be interesting. How does the Big Ten schedule pan out for those teams next year? Because for a lot of the big name, I mean, even Indiana benefited from, and I'm not taking anything away from them, they benefited from an easier schedule. Texas and the SEC benefited from an easier schedule than what most teams in the SEC were playing. At the end of the day, I think that I don't think that we can put to bed the argument of strength of schedule. I think that that's going to be an ongoing 3 or 4 years while we're dealing with a 12 or a 14 team college football playoff, whatever the number may be. I don't think that we can put that to bed, but that can't be the end all be all. That was the argument for why should Alabama get in over SMU? Because of the strength of schedule. Well, listen, if you're going to have that type of an argument, you better get into, and not that Kalen DeBoer was sitting there parading that around, but the former head coach of Alabama was right there live on TV. If that's going to be the case, then you better get in your bowl game, and you better do how Georgia did last year in the Orange Bowl when they were left out of the college football playoff. You had 2 teams right there who absolutely deserved last year, Georgia and Florida State, to be in the college football playoff. One team didn't show up, and that's not necessarily just on Mike Norvell. That's on the players who decided, hey, this game's just not worth my time. And then you had the other team who said, you know what, we're going to prove it. what we're capable of, and they did that. Well, Alabama had that opportunity this year to go on to go into Tampa and take on a Michigan team who just got done beating Ohio State, so you can have the proof in the pudding of, hey, look how good we are. They did not do that. They fell flat on their face, and so that's one of those things that stands out to me is how much is the committee now moving forward going to look at strength of schedule when at the end of the day we're going to have a lot of these teams that are separated at bad strength of schedule, but 10-2, hard strength of schedule, tough strength of schedule, and they're 9-3.
Strength of schedules, I mean, it needs to be considered, but it's a tough one because, you could have a team that's outstanding.
Yeah.
And loses to 3 great teams, and now because they have 3 losses, they don't look like as strong an opponent when they're better than some of the people you played with won because they're not. So, I mean, it's always very difficult. They can put together any computer program, any hypothetical. Look, this is always going to be the problem in football because you have 136 Division I teams and a 12-game schedule. You can't play enough people to know. So hypotheticals are always tough. That's what leads you to TCU doesn't belong. Look how bad Georgia stomped them. And, well, you said the same thing about Michigan, and they beat Michigan.
Right.
So, I mean, hypotheticals are always tough. You've got to factor it. I mean, the hardest part of it is when you attack a team's non-conference schedule. And I'm not talking about guys who go out and schedule Wagner and Mercer and, whoever else. I'm talking about when you go out, like Alabama one year scheduled Florida State, opened the season. Florida State was number 3 in the country.
Yeah.
They end up
Was that 2007?
Yeah, they hurt Francois.
Oh, no, that was 2014
or 15. Yeah. And then Florida State ends up not ranked. Well, at that time, they're the number 3 team in the country.
Right.
Or, look, you're scheduling a couple of years out. You might schedule, Penn State now. And then
by the time you get to
2-3 years,
game,
let's say even 2-3 years from now, that's going to be a completely 100% turned over roster.
Yeah.
And they may be awful. So it's kind of hard to jump a team because of that.
Should we put limits on how far they can schedule out? In this day and age where we're at in college football.
I mean, what can they do? The NCAA doesn't mandate the schedule.
No, 100%.
So,
I'm saying should Greg Sankey say, hey, when you're scheduling other opponents, 5 years is the maximum you can go, because we see all the time. I remember back in 2014 hearing, we're going to be playing this team in 2027. Yeah. I'm like, is Jesus going to come back before then or not?
It's become a bigger problem since the transfer portal.
100%.
Because, I mean, you had a little better idea, but even then it was tough. But I think you have to factor how deep the SEC is and how deep the Big Ten is a little bit. Maybe that's a little unfair for the Big 12 and ACC because it's not like those guys don't want to be a part of those conferences. But I think you do have to factor that. The non-conference one is the one that can be a little bit difficult, particularly if you schedule what's usually a power and just happens to be on a rotten year.
Yeah. Well, Ohio State and Notre Dame for the national championship. That game will be right here on ESPN Northwest Florida next Monday, right after the Afternoon Underdogs. Coverage will start at 6 p.m. for a 6:30 kickoff. Do you think that we ever move on from national championship games being played on Monday evening? I don't think that is anywhere in the near future, just because playoff football in the NFL at that point in time of the year that we're in is on Saturdays and Sundays. And I
wish, like, the NFL would run one early Saturday, and then you had the Saturday night.
I agree with
college
that. I would love that. I would love that.
Or
even college basketball, where the national championships on what? Yeah, Monday evening as well.
Yeah, I've never liked it on Monday. I certainly don't like it this late in January. But they have
gotten used to, for the whole entire football season, we're watching football around that time, right? It's not college football.
Well,
it's the NFL.
I always like when college ended on the wild card week.
Yeah.
I don't like that it's going one more week into the NFL.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, they didn't ask me.
Hey, well, maybe next year we'll get a vote in there for Coach Brian Haddad. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. We're taking your calls this afternoon on ESPN Northwest Florida at 850-215-6290. When we get back, we're going to dive into the NFL playoffs. And, of course, we still want to hear from you. Send us your best and worst of the sports weekend to 850-215-6290. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida presents Wrestling Against Cancer 10. Proceeds to help Ryan Holland. Stars to appear Mike Steele, Donnie B, AJ Stokes, Kelly Mann, and exciting women's wrestling with T. Gaines, JC Black, and more. Wrestling Against Cancer 10. Saturday, February 8th at Bay Haven Charter Academy in Panama City. Tickets available at the door. More info at ESPNPC.com.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Monday's weather. The remainder of the day, there will be a blustery wind out of the north-northeast, clouds and 50. Mostly clear skies tonight, about the same at 41, and a wind at 11 miles per hour out of the north. Tomorrow, partly sunny and a moderate breeze right around 13 miles per hour with a high of 57. About the same at 56 Wednesday, and we'll have mostly clouds. This forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Are you tired of hearing 2 weeks when you call to get your boat worked on? Hey folks, it's Chris Kramer with Kramer Marine and Outdoor, and we'll get you in and back out on the water as quick as possible. We're a full-line Yamaha outboard dealer and Suzuki outboard dealer, and we have master-trained certified mechanics on site. So if it's just an annual service, electronics install, trolling motor install, or all the way up to a full repower, we can take care of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM, or call us at 850-851-0453.
Is your restaurant looking a little tired from the long off season? Is your office a little offish? Start the new year off right by giving them a fresh start. Fresh Start Cleaning is now accepting new clients. Ask about their complimentary hood cleaning services. Fresh Start Cleaning. Get clean again with Fresh Start. Call 850-771-6917, 771-6917, and ask about their complimentary hood cleaning services.
Who was hired? Who was fired? Trades, drafts, and playoffs. We're talking about it.
That trade, when it was made, was the right trade.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs, right here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
You're back in the doghouse riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with the great Coach Brian Haddad, and we are your home for Auburn Tiger basketball here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Tomorrow night, tip right after the Afternoon Underdogs at 6 p.m. Mississippi State and Auburn, the newly found number one team in the land. Coach Brian Haddad, do you think Mississippi State's got an opportunity here to knock off number one?
I do. I like the way State plays. I mean, they came up short against Kentucky, which
who doesn't?
We always do. But, and I still haven't heard what the long-term prognosis is on Jahani Broome. So I think this would be a good time to catch them. But that being said, Auburn's awfully good. I mean, they really are. SEC basketball's for real this year. I mean, we talked a little bit about this last week, too. I still got to see a few things because there's not a whole lot of quad one wins, but there's a lot of teams with a lot of talent, and it's going to be interesting. But, yeah, State absolutely has a chance. Those guys play really good fundamental basketball.
So it's an ankle sprain for Gianni Broome. That's right. And he's not going to need surgery.
Right, so. I did see that, but they still don't know. Yeah, and, the problem with ankle injuries is what you need is time. Mm-hmm. And time is a luxury you don't have a lot of. Yep. So, we'll see. But yeah, go Bulldogs. I'm going to have the cowbell out, that's for sure.
Well, I'll say War Eagle then for the opposite side, just because we're an affiliate here, and that really pains me to say, but they're the number one team in the land, and it is what it is, right? So, there you go. And also, don't forget tonight that the NFL does play here, and we will have the Vikings and the Rams coverage starting at 6:30 this evening for a 7 p.m. kick between the Vikings and the Rams. What do you think of them moving that game? You have all the California wildfires. Again, thoughts and prayers with those in Los Angeles and just really across the state, but moving that game to Arizona.
I mean, you had to move it somewhere.
Yeah.
I think
do you find any conspiracy in them moving it to State Farm to a stadium named by State Farm.
No, look, first of all, I'm not going down the politics road, but
to like a 7 o'clock type feel.
There's a whole lot of misinformation out there about the whole insurance thing. But whatever, it is what it is.
Well, we know how that is here as Floridians, though, with hurricanes and all of that stuff, and how you can get shafted at times.
I will say it's not, some people are saying that, once the fire started, that they got drop coverage.
Yeah.
That's not what's going on. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The fact that the game is
I'm to the line today. We're playing shuffleboard.
Who am I on with in the morning? You don't think I know how to dance?
And it's on Wednesdays too, exactly. So you get the trifecta.
Oh yeah.
As well.
So, but yeah, it's you had to move it. Moving it to Arizona is probably it's got to be the closest to Southern California, and I'm glad it was available. The problem is there is no way for this not to be difficult for the Rams.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter where you put it. I mean, you put this game in Hawaii. The problem is...
It'd be like a bowl game.
Look, we talked about college football all the time when LSU's going out west to play UCLA right as a hurricane's hitting.
Yeah.
You can't not think about what's going on at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I know these guys are professionals and they have all this money and it's not like they're going to be destitute. No, but it's still your home. It's where your kids go to school. It's where your family is. It's your belongings. It's everything. It's your friends.
Yeah.
It's everything. And it's going to be difficult. Now, a lot of people say you can rally around that. Look what the Saints did right out of Katrina.
Right, but there's a big difference in playing the week of something going on and and something that's ongoing.
Yeah, you're in the middle of it.
Right.
That's
Whereas with
true.
New Orleans, it was, building through the season, because that was a huge game, Falcons and Saints opening up that season. And it wasn't too far on the hills, but for them to get to the Super Bowl, they had time to kind of work through all of that. So a great point there. What about for the Chargers? The Chargers fall to the Texans, 32-12. Justin Herbert, one of my worst of the weekend, and we'll dive back into this at 5 o'clock. 4 interceptions. He only tossed 3 interceptions during the regular season. How much of an issue do you think that played in that game with them playing at Houston? They were on the road. They could have, but at the end of the day, if we're going to make that same...
It had to have factored. It had to have factored. Now, would it have been the same? Might have been worse, but it had to have factored. But... watching a little bit of that game that I was able to see early, you could tell things just weren't clicking. And I think what happened with Herbert, he really started pressing after that.
Yeah.
Because, and look, when you're already dealing with a lot of uncertainty, just, all of a sudden, whatever you're trying to do on offense isn't clicking, you start to panic.
Yeah.
And again, the Chargers are not a team that's been to the playoffs a lot lately. I mean, if this was Herbert's second trip.
I believe so. And the first time they had a big lead on the Jacksonville Jaguars and then gave that up.
I think he pressed and panicked a little, and that results in, 4 turnovers. You can't do that in playoff football, certainly against a team with a good defense.
Right. So what do you think of the Texans and their bounce back? Because it almost likens to, 2009, 2010 or so, Arizona Cardinals, who kind of limped their way into the playoffs and then made a run to the Super Bowl. Are the Texans a team? I know that we've got the Ravens, we've got the Bills, but one of those 2 teams are going to eliminate themselves. And then you've got the Texans and the Chiefs. Are the Texans a team that can take the Chiefs out of the playoffs?
Well, yeah. I mean, the old phrase, any given Sunday.
Right. Which I believe they play on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thanks. But no, I'm curious to see how much confidence that gave the Texans, because I do think that game fell to them. I'm not so sure they went out and grabbed it. Now, they took advantage.
They grabbed those interceptions.
They took advantage. Sure. But what I'm saying is they didn't come out and dominate per se. They were better, but there's still a team that strikes me as suffering a little confidence. My biggest worry with the Chiefs game is the Chiefs rested pretty much everybody for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I love that. We talked about that last week.
Rest, absolutely.
So could, the Texans go in there and just have a boost of confidence and the Chiefs be a little rusty, and all of a sudden, before you know it, it's 17-0, 17-3. Yeah, they could. I don't know.
It's just so tough because when Patrick Mahomes is in the game, it's hard to go.
It's real hard
him.
for me to know how much of a confidence boost that really gave the Texans, or did they just kind of get another win?
I think my personal standpoint, my personal perspective on that is it gave them a huge boost to confidence, not because of even just winning the game. Obviously, that was a huge role. But because they were counted out, it was one of those where you know,
you're
a
lot of people
NFL
took the
game
Chargers.
Day. Yeah, I mean, everyone on the show took the Chargers. That when we talked about the playoff games, Coach Dave Ford was on with us Friday. He took the Texans. I think Bone Crusher might have taken the Texans. There was not very many teams, taking the Texans, and they came out and they did what they had to do. And for me, it was more or less the injuries. Had Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell's still been a part of that roster, then I feel like, you're able to spread things out a little bit more. Ladd McConkey still had a huge game, but that was also in garbage time after basically the game almost fell out of hand. Really, when he sailed, who was it that Herbert was throwing to? It might have been McConkey. When he threw the ball over his head and that pick went the other way, 4-6, that's where the game just kind of fell over, because the Chargers have not really been a team that they're a good comeback team.
We're so used to the last decade of the NFL now being so offense dominated that we forget that there have been occasions where a defense has just led a team through the playoffs. And we very well could get that again this year. I mean, the one that jumps out at me, I guess, would be what Tampa did. A couple years back. I mean, they just dominated throwing defense. Before that, I guess Denver. Everybody was talking about Peyton Manning, but God, that defense
even
was
the
phenomenal.
Chiefs' defense last year was...
So, sometimes you can have a team that may be struggling a little offensively where the defense just catches fire and just says, hop on our backs, we'll keep you in the game. That may be, something that the Texans can get here, but, it's again.
Do you hate it as a Titans fan, the fact that DeMeco Ryans is the head coach of the Texans?
No, he's like Bama guy. I love DeMeco
That's what I'm saying, but isn't there that slight thing of I hate the fact that somewhere deep down in my subconscious, I'm not rooting for the Texans, but when they win, it's like, it's okay. And they got a ton of Bama guys too.
I'm okay with the Texans. It's the Colts I can't.
Yeah.
At least the time when I was in Nashville, the Colts was the rivalry for the Titans. There's no doubt of that. So, the Houston thing was, you could be mean to the Texans fans and just say we had the real Houston franchise, the one that actually did something. But no, it was the Colts. So very, very seldom will you ever find me pulling for the Colts for anything.
Real quick, I do have to address this text message from Adam Goff. He says, wow, now David is making excuses for Herbert. Y'all just keep rolling out excuses like Apple rolls out updates, which is true. But I will also say I'm not making excuses. That was terrible. And AG, if you were tuned in at the beginning, I don't know if you were or not, but I said it's just more and more of you being right here about Herbert, and that's, I don't want to say it stinks because it's one of those it's one of those issues where he's one of those top tier quarterbacks, one of the top tier, maybe not in the top tier, but in that secondary tier of being right there. And there is no excuse to make for what happened on Saturday at all. There's no excuse for throwing 4 interceptions. I don't care if you're pressing at the end of the game to try to make up for the mistakes that you already made. The operative word there is the mistakes, or the operative words is the mistakes you already made. There's nothing on that. There's only kudos to the Texans, and there's no excuse. And if we're talking about the wildfires in California as being an excuse, no, that's not an excuse for Herbert. That's an excuse for the Chargers, and it's not an excuse either. It's not an excuse. It's could that be something that was on their mind? Because if we're going to give that same leeway to the Rams tonight, if they lose, we have to give that to the Chargers, and at the same token.
Right, to clarify, it has to affect the team.
Right.
I thought what Herbert did was purely on Herbert, because I just think he pressed and panicked early.
Yeah.
And that's, when you start doing that in the playoffs, you're in trouble. And I think that's what happened. And, look, I'm sure in the back of his mind, he thinks everybody calls me a combine quarterback. I can make all the throws, when, I'm in shorts and this, that, or the other. And when the big game's on the line, they can't rely on me. So, am I going to be thought of as a combine quarterback?
Now, the pick six to Stingley, that was a tipped interception, but at the end of the day, that goes in the stat column of Justin Herbert. That's his fault for throwing the ball a little bit too high, and definitely throwing it way too high.
Hit them in the numbers; they're not tipped that often.
That is, you never know. But still, there's no excuse. I'm not making any excuses for Herbert, and now I have to align more closely with Adam Goff on this, and I hate that. If I'm being honest with you, AG, I hate the fact that I have to align with you on this because it's a lot of fun to give him crap about
I had to align with Notre Dame. You're having to align with AG. This is opposite Monday.
What in the world? Next thing you know, I would be cheering for the Reds or something during baseball season. My goodness gracious.
Well, you'll never hear me sing Rocky Top, so don't even go down that road.
Hold on now.
No, don't you play
the Ravens, though, taking care of business, doing what they've done all year long. They beat the Steelers 28-14. Are you surprised, man? Looking at the box score, Najee Harris only had 6 carries. You can talk about the yards all you want, but they only 6 opportunities to carry the ball. Jalen Warren, I think, only had 2. Did not make sense. And the Ravens dominated the time of possession. That is true. But what is one thing that we know from watching the Ravens this year is that their secondary is not what it used to be. It's the weakest part of that defense. Yes, Russell Wilson's stat line looked good, but that's because it was garbage time by the time that they started attacking the middle of that secondary. I don't really understand it. Were you surprised that the Steelers didn't try to air it out a little bit more earlier? And then also, I guess we have to talk about Coach Mike Tomlin at some point in time today.
The Steelers just looked like a team that, toward the end of the season got tired.
Yeah.
It's kind of what Jacksonville reminded me of a little last year, maybe the Dolphins a couple of years. It just a team that kind of got maybe to a better start than they thought. Everything was kind of rocking, and they just looked tired by the end of the year, and they looked like that in this game. The Ravens looked like exactly what I had hoped they would look like coming out of last year, a team that, we took that last step we needed to take of lessons, and now we come in and we're firing on all cylinders and we're ready to go. So I don't know. I don't know if it was the game plan. I don't know if they were just mentally and physically worn down, but it did not. The last 3 to 4 weeks, this is kind of what the Steelers have looked like. They look like a team out of gas, and they also look like a team that probably has to answer. They got to answer 1 or 2 locker room issues. They're going to have to. As talented as he is, I think you got to get Pickens moving.
Yeah.
He's clearly not on board with what you're doing.
He did have a good game.
He did. He's a good player.
But
he's clearly not on board with what the Steelers are doing, and I think you run the risk of that becoming an issue. Look, we saw it with the Bills, and they had to move Diggs. Diggs was a great player, but it wasn't going to work with the Bills, and I think they're going to have to do that. I still think, in my mind, the Steelers probably overachieved for the year.
They did.
For what I thought.
Right.
But the problem is when you get off to such a hot start,
then it's expected of you to continue on that type of run. But here's the thing. Then how are we talking about the Ravens? How are we talking about Lamar Jackson if the Steelers, and we know that the Ravens are the better team, especially with the addition of Derrick Henry. So then the conversation shifts completely now to not necessarily on John Harbaugh at that point in time, but wow, is Lamar just not able to do it in the playoffs? And I think that if you're I would rather have these conversations about the Steelers, not even in the purpose of getting rid of Tomlin, but the Steelers overachieved this year, and here we are. Should we get rid of Tomlin because y'all didn't beat the Ravens when how many of us expected them to beat the Ravens? I don't think many of us did. Maybe a closer game?
Getting rid of Tomlin, to me, is just a horrendous idea. This is a guy who, look, I know everybody wants to buy their championship, and they're like, I would take 10 years of being sorry if I get one Super Bowl. I don't believe that way. I think the Steelers are the epitome of what you want to be. Now, look, it's been too long since they've won a championship for a team that's won, 5 or 6 Super Bowls? I think Terry had...
I think it's 6.
4. Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, but this team has a winning record basically every year. They make the playoffs almost every year. And, you're talking about a franchise that's had 3 head coaches since, 1968?
Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher.
Yeah. I don't think you mess with that. I think Tomlin does a good job. Now, has he moved out a couple of coordinators maybe a little bit too early, and that messed with some things?
A lot of those coordinators get old early.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
not old early, but they're old.
Yeah, look, you're going to have to do a little something maybe to take that next step, and that's either going to be personnel coaching or a little of both. But no, I certainly don't change who's at the helm, because somebody who's that good consistently and has the pedigree of having gone to AFC Championship games, having gone to Super Bowls, I don't think you change that. I think you give him what he needs to augment it, and you maybe make a couple of personnel decisions here that might seem difficult, but might seem necessary.
Well, I am going to make an executive decision about what we're going to talk about next. But first, a comment from Silos on YouTube. The Chargers suck just like the Bengals. And I'm sure that was aimed right there to Adam Goff. My executive decision is coming up next. Last Monday started in a new era for WWE's Raw. They were on Netflix, and they got started off with a bang. And we're going to let Coach Brian Haddad tell us about his thoughts, his takeaways from the Raw Netflix era starting, and then also I'll tell you guys about Wrestling Against Cancer 10, which will be February 8th at Bay Haven Charter Academy's gym. We'll be right back. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Give me a holler, 850-215-6290.
ESPN Northwest Florida presents the most college basketball.
Three-pointer. College basketball is back.
The Panhandle's destination for live play-by-play.
The SEC, ACC, and beyond.
Oh, you saw that coming, Rampant.
The biggest games play right here.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Ellis Agency Insurance has been serving Panama City and Bay County for years. They offer a full line of affordable insurance coverage of all types. Many people are attracted to Ellis Agency Insurance because of their friendly, knowledgeable staff. Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts and Deli. Call 763-1627.
Take your next adventure in an award-winning Kia from Bill Bird Kia. Discover the new Kia. We invite you to stop by Bill Bird Kia and test drive the new 2025 Kia. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. The 2025 Kia SUV family has movement that inspires. Drive away today in a new 2025 Kia Soul, Seltos, Sportage, Sorrento, or Telluride. Fuel the thrill and command the road in the luxury of a 2025 Kia K5 sedan from Bill Bird Kia. Performance, power, and design built for you. Spark inspiration in the all-electric 2025 EV9. It's a modern masterpiece, fast charging, rugged, and roomy. Bill Bird Kia is the original home for the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by 2435 East 15th Street, Panama City, or anytime at BillBirdKia.PanamaCity.com. We'll treat you like family and give you the peace of mind you can trust. Your local community dealer is Bill Bird Kia.
They're number one in the men's room.
I hope this place comes with toilet paper.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Oh, geez, this is going to be a photo finish.
On ESPN Northwest Florida.
Oh, my bad.
Turn that off.
My bad. Is that a little bit better for you?
Yes, but it's just
somehow
spoiled.
A ghost just got a little...
It's spoiled.
A handle
I'm
on the
walking
mouth.
out.
The ghost in here, I don't know whose ghost it is, but they just got a little handle on the mouth.
Fixing to be your ghost.
Hey, well, how about you tell everybody about your ESPN Northwest Florida and how they can listen to us in different ways?
It is easier than ever to listen to ESPN Northwest Florida. Look, we are available on your smart speaker for in-home listening. All you have to do, for all you technologically savvy folks out there who are younger than me, you just say, Alexa, open the 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. And look, just because you get out of the car doesn't mean you have to stop listening to sports talk radio, live playback, blah, 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 blah. Take Two, play-by-play, or Dave and I yelling at each other about getting off lawns. I mean, you could do this. Just, again, hey, Alexa, play 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, or you can go onto the ESPNPC.com and click Enable Skill. I do want to make note here, I do have some copy to read, and I think you guys counted on me being Ron Burgundy here.
You know it.
It's
the same way that I played.
Yeah. So I'm going to read. I'm going to read this as is. We're available on your smart spacker for in-home listening, and this is my favorite because I would have straight read this had I not looked. Don't read this verbatim. Make it your own. That would have been great. So I am not Ron Burgundy.
Well, there you go. Coach Brian Haddad always doing a great job for us over here at ESPN Northwest Florida. Across the board, you can hear him also on the Coach James Hale Show Wednesdays right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. I also have an opportunity for you guys to win $25 to Major Smokehouse and a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock. But first, we're going to get over to our phone line. We've got Coach Mike riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, and then we'll get to the trivia question. Coach Mike, how's it going this afternoon?
Hey, it's going great.
Hey, Mikey. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, Brian? Hey, not much. Hey,
I figured I'd have heard from you after Michigan, Alabama.
Nah, I figured I'd let that go. I was happy enough with them beating Ohio.
Yeah.
That was enough for me.
There you go.
So, Hey, I was calling you to follow up on something you said probably the beginning of this season with all the portal and name changes. Because it happened to me in basketball where, I like Krzyzewski, and it seems like I'm a homer for following teams that win, but I liked him. But once I started getting new players every year, I just started losing interest. And I'm worrying I'm already getting disinterested in college football.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to be with the average fan? You think that's going to, you know what I mean?
Real quick before you answer that, Coach Brian, would you consider yourself average or above average as a fan, Coach Mike? I would assume that you're above average. That would be my assumption if you're sitting there listening to sport, because I think that's where the disconnection is. I would say that the more avid fan is going to be more disconnected than your average fan.
Correct.
Go ahead, Coach Brian.
Okay, well, then maybe that's what's happening, because I used to look forward to going, okay, well, these guys were the sophomores. Now they're going to be the starters / maybe the number 2 on the depth chart. And now I don't even know who the hell is going to be on the team in spring or after spring. And I suppose you could try to take a positive twist going, well, it's exciting to keep up with them, but I got to be honest, it's rather taxing.
It's harder than it is keeping up with prospects in Major League Baseball.
It is, and I've said that a million times. I used to be every bit as much a college basketball fan as I am football, and I very much fell out of college basketball when you could not invest in the team anymore. You'd get excited. A freshman would come in and play really well, and you think, golly, I got 3 more years, or at least 2 more years of this guy, and, he's going to be my guy and be great for my team, and then he's gone. With college football, I'm starting to feel that, too. I mean, I was, so invested in, like a Caleb Downs, like, oh, my God, we got this kid for 2 more years at Alabama, and boom, now he's at Ohio State. And good for Ohio State, good for Caleb Downs, but it does temper kind of your excitement in that. Look, if you're a team like Mississippi State, for me, who struggled this year, I mean, you look forward to the portal because you could more quickly turn it around. But, I got to say, Mike, and I think David's right. I think the more avid fans going to have more trouble because they were very much invested in watching that team develop over time. And now that we're just replacing and I honestly think most of us came into this season, Mike, thinking the NIL was going to be the thing we hated the most.
No, it's the transfer portal.
The portal.
Well, and the problem is that they don't even get through 6 or 7 games before, all right, I'm getting into the portal. Yeah. And then, I'm going to play in the college football playoff game. Nah, I'm going to get into the portal. And then you have, with Alex Orji, right? The backup quarterback for Michigan. He had to come in after the starting quarterback guy. He was in the transfer portal for that game. And kudos to him for playing in it, but it's still like, have we no loyalty left for who you signed up for? And I get it. There's extenuating circumstances with every different situation. However, it still is, it's annoying. I think that's a very nice way of putting it.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, I get some kids, if you're there for your third year and they just brought in 2 more kids and the reality is set in that you ain't making the starting roster, okay, go ahead and leave after your third year, maybe have your degree. I don't freaking know.
Yeah.
But you're there for one season and then you're rolling out. That's ridiculous.
You know what makes it worse for like us, Mike, people who've coached, I mean, not football at the collegiate level, but what probably makes it worse is we, as much as anybody, have seen the benefit, not just of the program, we've seen the benefit to kids of sticking to something, fighting your way up, working to win that starting job. And then I look at a kid like Malachi Nelson, who's the top-ranked kid in the country coming out of high school, goes USC for a year, boom, not starting, I'm going to Boise State, boom, not starting, now I'm going to wherever UTEP. It just makes me sick because I know if the right people got in that kid's ear and said, do the right things, fight for your spot, earn your way up, you could be the Mac Jones, you could be the Gunnar Stocktons, you could be those things, and it's just frustrating to me. And it definitely look. I'm
and
still
Jaden Rashad is a prime example of that as well.
I'm still going to watch Monday night, but I don't feel the same about it as I did a year ago. I really don't.
Well, David brought up Alex Orji, the Michigan kid. Listen, that kid, I'm sorry, you can't throw the ball 10 feet.
Yeah.
Going to UNLV is not... Could Michigan not do a better job? I'm going to beat up on my own guys going, son, we love you here. Everybody on the team loves you.
Yeah.
He's like the strongest kid on the team. And can't you move him to defensive end, for Christ's sake? You know what I mean? It's something. Tight end.
There's so many ways that he could be used in the run game. There's so many ways that you could put him in that slot wide receiver position. Then all of a sudden he's dropping back 3 or 4 yards off the line of scrimmage. Boom. I mean, there's so many ways that they can be used. However, and I think that we see this more with a quarterback position than any other position. If a guy feels strong enough in his talents or his ability to play the position of quarterback, I'm thinking of Tim Tebow. There's plenty of guys who you have other guys like Julian Edelman who they go to the league, they turn into a wide receiver. Not saying that one guy is more of a team player than the other player, but if a quarterback believes he's a quarterback, you're not getting him off that position, for better or worse.
The sad thing is I don't care how much of a quarterback whisperer is Mullen is out there at UNLV. He ain't fixing that kid. That's just the way it's going to be.
if he turns Origi into a 5,000-yard passer, he will be the quarterback whisperer.
Okay, well, he will be, but I ain't holding my breath. And I wish the kid the best, but I wish he would have stayed. And found a new home and what's going to take him to the NFL, because that ain't it.
That's right.
That ain't it. So. Coach Mike, thank you so much for the call, my friend.
Say, Mikey.
All right, see you guys.
Ohio Brad, Cleveland Brad, as we're calling him now. He chimes in. He says, invest in the team, not the players. How much do you love your squads? There's an element of truth to that, Cleveland Brad. There is. However, what makes us love our squads? We love... For you, it's Ohio State, right? You love your Buckeyes, and you're going to be invested no matter what. I'm going to be invested in Alabama no matter what. I'm going to be invested across the board in college football. I'll tell you one thing, though. It's made it harder for me because we go through the offseason, and it's like, oh, this guy used to be there, and you're trying to keep up with all of this and still try to, talk like you know what's going on, or at least come across as if you know what's going on, and that sticks. But as a fan, it stinks when you expect to have a guy for 2 or 3 years and you don't have them anymore. And it's left and right. It's, didn't work out for me here. Now I'm headed to this other predominant program in the college football landscape.
And I think one of the things you like as a fan is watching that kid develop in your program.
Yeah.
When you think back to, I remember when they made their first start and they tripped over their own feet and fumbled the ball.
Jalen Hurts. And those are the kind of situations where it's like when you've done your duty, when you've done, I never had an issue with Jalen transferring to Oklahoma because his time was out. You know, his time was out there. He had the conversation with Coach, and it made sense for him to go to Oklahoma.
He stayed a year.
He stayed a year past that.
That's right. That's why no Alabama fan is ever upset at Jalen Hurts.
And with how that played out, right? Because it was the flip-flop. A lot of people forget about that in the SEC championship game. It was Jalen Hurts coming in to save the tide. And then after that, it was, all right, time for him to go. Cleveland Brad says, I just care that our starters are good every year. Don't really care how we get there. I think there's an element of truth to that. However, especially when we're talking about the two guys who were just talking, and Coach Mike and Coach Brian, they've lived through a lot, and I don't know your age, Cleveland Brad, but y'all...
Age is part of it.
Age is a huge... how long you've been watching college football is how long you're going to be, or how it affects your locked intuitiveness, if you will.
I'm not even sure people my age have that much wrapped their heads around people leaving after their junior year, although we've accepted it, but it was more that... It's a weird thing to say, but there's some truth to it in that your school is so passionate to you that it's almost like they're your kids for 4 years or 3 years, and you want them to develop, and so you almost have that kind of, they're kind of my adopted kid, and I want to see them develop in my program. It's probably not the right way to view it, but I do think there is something to that. So
there's no such thing as a contract. When they verbally commit or when they sign, they can get out of those signatures sometimes. For me, it's like if we signed Derrick Henry to a 4-year contract. Now, of course, that team can kind of always get out of it, but if we sign Derrick Henry or we sign whatever player, I expect to at least see that player on the Tennessee Titans or whatever team it is that I'm rooting for 2 to 3 years. You know, and so same way with the college football level. Now I get there's certain circumstances, and we don't have any of this ironed out. So it is what it is. And I'm not going to stop.
It's just messy.
Well, it is, and it's a tough thing to be able to clean up that mess. There's not any bleach that we could just pour on this and be like, all right, on to the next. No, because it's the fact that these two things are coupled. Even though they're like you called it earlier, it's not the transfer portal. We were off the air. What did you call it? The negotiation portal.
Yeah,
and that's what it is, And so it's one of those things that we're still getting used to. It doesn't change for me. It doesn't change like any way that I look at college football as a whole. But I see your stance on it. I see your perspective on it.
But I definitely view it differently.
Right, but you've already been burned by this type of situation before.
Not just hard.
Well, not just that, but you know how you used to love college basketball, and you know what happened when the one and done started taking effect. And then after 3, it wasn't just the first year, I'm done with college basketball after one and done. It was after that 3rd or 4th year where you're seeing these guys go to the pros, and then when they go to the pros, a lot of the times it's one and done. And who are they?
It's not anger. Anger could be manageable. It's disinterest, and that's worse.
It is. Yes. Because you can fix anger because you can communicate your way through it. Take it as a relationship. You could talk your way through that. Once you start becoming disinterested in someone or something, then that's where the going gets tough, if you will, and you got to make a decision at that point. But I love all the conversations that we're having. Love the texts. Love the calls. Keep them rolling in. 850-215-6290. Coming up after the Afternoon Underdogs, we've got some NFL playoffs for you between the Vikings and the Rams. Coverage starting at 6 for a 6:30 kickoff. And we did not give any time to Coach Brian Haddad there for Netflix on Raw. No, we're going to do it coming up to start off. Well, that had to be one of your best, right? All right. Hey, you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll be right back.
Your home for college basketball. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Auburn men's basketball is ranked number 1 in the country. And Coach Pearl and the Tigers will face off versus number 15 Mississippi State tomorrow night. Tip off at 6 on your home for the Auburn Tigers in college basketball.
And count it on the 3.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Monday's weather. Tonight there will be a brisk wind out of the north, mostly clear skies and 41. Mostly sunshine tomorrow morning, about the same at 50. In the afternoon and evening, partly cloudy and a gentle breeze right around 10 miles per hour with a high of 57. About the same at 56 Wednesday, and we'll have mostly clouds. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hewitt Tire and Auto. Call 850-769-7323.
your certified AAA service center and hometown towing.
Visit them online at HewittTire.com.
On Airport Road in Panama City.
850-769-7323. Hewitt Tire and Auto Center and Hometown Towing.
Need a tow? Call Billy at Hometown Towing, 850-265-1562.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
WPLQ Port St. Joe, WGSX Lynn Haven, powered by Panama City Toyota.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
It's hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs. You're riding along right now with David Hayes and Coach Brian Haddad. You're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. Let's play a little trivia here for your chance to win a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock plus $25 to Major Smokehouse over there by the Bailey Bridge. And we've heard a lot of good things about it from the people that we have hooked up with some gift certificates to this point. What team, this is a pretty easy one, what team has never had a Hall of Famer play for them? What team has never had a Hall of Famer play for them? I'm trying to, now that I think about it, I pulled this from a website earlier, so I'm just trying to make sure that they haven't had a Hall of Famer play for them in the recent Hall of Fame.
What are you talking about? Everything on the internet is true.
This is the NFL. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Abraham Lincoln said that back in 1865. What team has never had a Hall of Famer play for them? For your opportunity to win 12-pack of Buffalo Rock and $25 to Major Smokehouse, 850-215.
I'm not sure.
6290. There's only one of 32. And well, if we don't get an answer here soon, give us a call. It's not going to hurt you to be wrong.
The two that sprung to mind, I can think both of them have had one, so I don't know.
Let's see if we could help the listeners whittle it down. Give me the two that you're thinking of, and I'll say
you were thinking Jacksonville and Carolina.
Okay, I would say that one of those are the correct answer.
Really? Because I thought both of them had.
That, again, we're just going to go with the answer that I have. One of those, don't say them again, but if they're listening, you have $25 for free to go to Major Smokehouse and check out. If you like barbecue,
I'm going to look
really
at my
missing
Google
out.
machine.
Yeah, there you go. Do that. I should have backtracked to make sure that we had the right answer, but at the end of the day, I'm looking for the right answer for this particular question. Wrestling Against Cancer 10 is going to be February 8th at Bay Haven Charter Academy's gym. The doors open at 5:30 for a 6:30 bell time. Tickets are $20 for front row, and they're running out of those very swiftly. Adults get in for $12, 6 through 17 get in for $8, and 5 and under get in free. The proceeds go to benefit my cousin Ryan Holland and his medical expenses. This means a lot to me, so even if you can't come, please donate so that we can raise money for my cousin's medical expenses. And he's a wrestler himself. This guy wrestles with all of the, before his cancer was wrestling all the time, and he's a big part of this community. I would love to see that place absolutely packed to the brim. We've got Gator Jamie. Gator Jamie, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. What do you got for the trivia answer? What team has never had a Hall of Famer play for him?
It's the Carolina Panthers.
That is not the correct answer. Is that what you're finding over there?
See,
what is Google telling you, Brian?
Well, what Google's telling me
is that all of them do. Again, I don't.
Yeah, because Peppers just went in.
Yeah.
But I have Tony Baselli going in.
And that was the name, Tony Baselli.
So I say he wins.
Okay. And if anyone calls in with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they also win as well. So Gator Jamie, you just won $25 and a 12-pack of Buffalo Rock. How's everything been going for you, my friend?
Hey, I love winning. Winning is great.
Hey, winning is great. I hope to see you February 8th over there at Bay Haven Charter Academy, man. That would mean a lot.
Yeah, I rode past the sign the other day on my way back from pickleball and thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I should probably show up to that.
Yeah, show up to that, and then I'll show up and play some pickleball with you sometime, man. It's been a while.
Heck yeah, that'd be cool.
All right, my man. Take care. And
getting the big win.
Hey, there you go.
With the big win last night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, give us your thoughts on that real quick. We got some time. Go ahead. Maybe I'll go.
Lose Jamie?
No. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
All right. Well, hey, Gator Jamie, we'll let you go, but I'll get up with you and we'll get you that $25 gift certificate to Major Smokehouse. Thanks so much for playing along. That was a big game, Commanders and the Buccaneers. But we need to start off, because if not, we're going to let this whole Monday go away and you won't even get the opportunity to talk about it. We actually talked a little bit about it Thursday because we had Ian Malone on with us. He's a big wrestling fan as well. Raw on Netflix. What was your thoughts on it? I think one of the biggest standouts was Hogan getting booed the way that he did.
Okay. He didn't just get booed. I mean, he got booed out of the building. Let me come back around to that because I do have some thoughts on that.
Of course.
But, yeah, I watched the whole thing. It was fantastic. I mean, you knew they were going to go all out on the first one, but I have to say the WWE is known for their production, and they have been for 30 years. The video they showed to start was kind of a history of wrestling, if you will.
I got someone to talk about it with you as well. Kyle Wright's on the line.
Oh, yeah, let's go. What's up, Kyle?
Yeah, let me talk to you.
That video they played to start it off, and then dropping the curtain and Triple H being in the ring, I mean, how could you not get pumped up after that? And then they're like, well, that's not enough. Why don't we just bring out the world's biggest movie star and The Rock comes to the ring? I mean,
turn that radio down for me, Kyle, or whatever you're listening on.
What a start to the Netflix era. Good gracious.
Yeah, man. I hope it got better, by the way, Dave. I got you on Bluetooth.
You're good.
So if it doesn't,
yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, man, what an absolute banger last week. Honestly, anybody out there that's listening, whether you've been a wrestling fan your whole life or you haven't watched wrestling in a long time, give Raw on Netflix a shot. It was an absolute banger. We had Michael Cole standing up on the announce table yeeting. We had Travis Scott bringing a little stage into the dome. It was an absolute banger of a show last week, man. I enjoyed it from start to finish.
It was good. I mean, they went a little more, and I know why they did this. They kind of went what I would call the Saturday night's main event route, which was, it was less, for the hardcore fan, less swerving, less, inside baseball, if you will, more just kind of standard clean finishes. Because they are appealing to a new audience. They definitely had new viewers. So I thought that was smart, even though maybe it's not what we would consider like an all-time classic episode as kind of hardcore fans like you and I are. But I thought that, Punk and Rollins just delivered on another level. That's like because there is some real friction there. Like, you believe those two guys absolutely hate each other, and that comes across. And it's hard to do in this day and age when everybody knows it's predetermined. But those guys bring it.
Yeah, man, it was honestly just really, like you said, well done. And it was smart. At first, I was kind of like everybody else, 3 hours, only 4 matches, a lot of kind of buffer time in between. But if you're trying to get a whole new fan base, which they did, by the way, because I don't know if you saw this stat, but Forbes reported this morning that Raw took over Squid Game Season 2 as the most watched show on Netflix.
That's unbelievable. Yeah.
Unfreaking believable, man. So why not? Like, you want clean finishes, right, so that people can see what WWE is at its top. You had Jey Uso with the yeet thing. It's super hyped up. Everybody loved it. Everybody was dancing. And if you're at home, you're like, oh, hold on. This is fun.
And you had the legends, which is like, that's where you get people like me involved, is when you're like seeing those reels or seeing those moments of the Hulk Hogan's, the Undertakers, The Rock, John Cena, all of that. I was watching live when he, came out and was, kind of gesturing the crowd for who's the guy that he needs to take on, and I think they're crushing it in that department.
Yeah, man, the presentation was insane. I'm excited to see what they do tonight. We got a massive debut, guy that people have wanted in WWE for a long time, Pentagon Jr. Mm-hmm. He's making his debut on Raw tonight, so I'm excited to see how WWE presents him. And, man, it's cool to be a wrestling fan again.
No doubt, man. It is something else.
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kyle, but I think for the last 2 years, really that Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns storyline, I feel like it's been cool to be a wrestling fan now for at least 2 years, and now they just continue to up the ante. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much pinpoint it to that WrestleMania, gosh, what was it? WrestleMania 38, where they were in Dallas, Brian, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Where Cody came back, where it was, I think it was, man, I can't remember the main event, but I know it was a huge WrestleMania there.
It was Lesnar and Reigns.
Yeah, and it was like the first time Roman started to actually get a little over. Everyone like really wanted to see it. It was to unify the titles, right? That's what it was.
Yes.
And then, the 2-night WrestleManias are starting to hit. You got the 2-night SummerSlam starting next year. They're just doing everything right, man. They're getting more talent. You got if you count just NXT, you've got 8 hours of unique programming every week that's going to be on cable television. Not cable television with Netflix, but you get where I'm going. Mainstream media, where you're going to have so much new talent getting their shine, and it's just, Dave. The last 2 years, I would say since then, 2 to 3 years, it's just started to feel cool again, and like I don't feel ashamed for having my title belts in the background anymore on my show.
I don't think that you should have ever felt that way, but I get it though. Whenever it gets to that point, and I do understand that, but I think that it's really cool for what they're doing for the wrestling fans. It's like if you're an NBA fan or if you're a baseball fan, and now your sport becomes popular again, and you just feel a better sense of confidence about your sport. And so for them taking it to this level, and you've got to give a lot of credit to Triple H for Paul Levesque for getting it to this level. Coach Brian, I don't want to take too much time from you.
Layered storylines. Yeah. That has been the difference. I mean, look, we kind of put down AEW, and most of the time rightly so. They've got tremendous athletes over there and guys who can go, and they've got veterans who know how to get it done, but the difference is the WWE has the better storytellers. And what Triple H is doing with the layered booking to where, the big WrestleMania blow-off with Cody and Roman is the most overbooked match I've ever seen in my life, but every bit of it made sense for like the last 5 years. That really matters. It's like seeing a good movie. Yeah. That, it swerves you but brings you back in, and you don't feel like you were duped. You feel like, oh my God, I should have seen that coming. Yeah. That's what we like to see the matches, we like to see the cool moves, but it's the storytelling. That's why it's always been called a soap opera for men. Mm-hmm. That's basically what wrestling is. So
that's 100%. It's a nail on the head from start to finish right there.
Well, my question for you, Kyle, is when is Coach Brian Haddad coming back on for Leave It at the Table?
I need to get you back on, man. We got the Royal Rumble coming up. Maybe we'll do something there. I would say WrestleMania for sure.
Oh, I'd love to do it. As long as there's no jelly bean tasting, I'm in, man.
No, I can't tell you on the air the exact words that I use, but I will tell you this much, man. Like, I would go out, I would eat the dog poop for FSU season before I'd ever eat another one of those jelly beans.
Well, I'm sure the Alpo tastes better than what people will give it credit for, right? I mean, add a little gravy to it, you'll be good.
Yeah, a little sausage link.
I want to bring this up because I said we would get back to it. Plus, Kyle, I mean, this is going to be slightly generational difference between you and I, because I think we're going to be on slightly different sides of this one. But one of the big talking points coming out of this whole thing was Hulk Hogan didn't just get booed. He got booed out of the building. Yeah. And, for me, I understand it. Because we've had all the shoot interviews of the guys talking about how Hogan kind of stepped on him. We've had the racism claims, and we've had the whole Bubble the Love Sponge
I had to read a lot of comments to find all of this out that you're talking about.
There's a lot of look, Hogan, he comes from a time, rightly or wrongly, where everybody was trying to job everybody. Yeah. And you looked out for your own, and he was the master at doing that. And he made a lot of
everyone
he made
in the
a lot
business,
of enemies. He made a lot of enemies doing that. Now, that being said, being my age, it's hard for me to not be able to give him, the gratitude for what he did for the business, because he did take the business to another level, and he was very important. I guess for me, I understand it, but that was very uncomfortable to watch because it was so bad. And poor Jimmy Hart in the background having to wave that flag.
Go America!
At 150 years old or whatever Jimmy is.
He's got to be up there, don't he?
I'll put it this way. I understand people who don't like Hogan, but, God, that was uncomfortable to me, and I really didn't like it. It just, I don't know.
How do you feel about that, Kyle? Let's get the younger, like the other side of it. I hate to use the word younger. It sounds like I'm ageist, but I'm just a realist. That's all it is. Well, Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, so the first thing you have to realize is, especially with how politically motivated everything in the world is now, I don't know who thought it would be a good idea, even though it's the Raw debut on Netflix and it's a huge show.
Yeah.
You have to have PR people who know that having Hulk Hogan in Los Angeles, California is not a good idea.
True.
So that's where it starts, right? So somebody made a big mistake. The second thing I'll say is I do understand the booing. I get, like, why they were doing it. But, man, if you're a wrestling fan, it's not like Hogan did what Vince did, right?
Yeah.
It's not like Hogan did anything like Vince. He doesn't have a nasty past. He doesn't have allegations against him. He just said some bad stuff one time. But man, none of this is possible without Hogan.
Right.
He brought wrestling to the mainstream. Like it existed for years before him, but man, if it's not for Hogan, this never blows up the way it did.
That's right.
None of us, we're not having these conversations. So I think that for WWE, you have to be better from a PR standpoint. Like, you got to bring him out in the Dallas, Texas, or a more conservative area. Like, I don't know where they are.
Like a Florida or something like that.
Yeah.
yeah, up there in, Georgia.
Okay, hold on now. Chill out. Can't be giving away any secrets here.
Dude, I had a frog in my throat there for a second. But,
go see Kyle Wright at Golf Plus, ladies and gentlemen, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Come on, I'll fix your golf clubs up. I'll probably do it incorrectly the first time, but I've got BJ there to help me out.
And we got receipts, so.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'm getting a lot better, a lot more comfortable over there. But yeah, from WWE standpoint, you got to be smarter from a PR perspective.
Real quick. I'm sorry to cut you off, bro, but I do want to get out of here right at 5:20 because we skipped over best and worst of the weekend, so I want to get back to that at 5:40, and we still have local. Your biggest takeaway from Raw on Netflix night one, and where do you think it goes tonight? Keep it quick, minute and a half for you, bud.
Biggest takeaway is that WWE is obviously going to be leaning hardcore into the presentation. Where do I hope it goes from here? I hope that sometime after the Rumble we start a Roman Rock program, because I just do not see a direction for Roman Reigns outside of that right now. And where do I think it goes from here? Just to the freaking moon. Guys, I'll let you go. I love you both. Dave, I love you to the moon, bro. You always know I'm here. And Brian, let's get you back on the damn show soon, man.
We'll do it, man.
Don't cuss on my ear. Hey, love you, Kyle. Oh, man, yeah, Kyle's a good friend. Got an opportunity to spend some time with him last night as he's going to be unveiling some big things from Leave It at the Table for you guys shortly. I'll be on there Absolutely, I'll be there the Wednesday before the Super Bowl, possibly be there on their second episode back. I didn't want to infringe, on what they've got going on. They've got some big things to unveil from you. I'm sorry that, again, for like the 52nd week in a row, we were not able to get to best and worst of the weekend at the times that I told you that we would get there.
That's the theme of Mondays.
Yeah, but that's the theme of every day. Hey, Brian, you must not listen to Tuesday through Friday here at the Afternoon Underdogs because it's a tangent show, and I put a lot of work into this show sheet for us to not follow it. And I'm just kidding. I love it so much, and I love the calls, and I love all the friends that we make along the way. Coming up next, we're going to talk about some more friends, or at least spend some time with some more friends, because it is time for the PCB Hobby Takeover. And I'm wondering, is today just as happy as any other Monday, or perhaps happier? Find out when we get back.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
The commercials for, eating it right and all this other stuff. He died at 55 of a heart attack.
The Poncho Nut.
Rob's competing with Mike.
Hey, y'all started this.
Weekday morning 7 to 9. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Monday's weather. Tonight there will be a brisk wind out of the north, mostly clear skies and 41. Mostly sunshine tomorrow morning, about the same at 50. In the afternoon and evening, partly cloudy and a gentle breeze right around 10 miles per hour with a high of 57. About the same at 56 Wednesday, and we'll have mostly clouds. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Are you looking for a place to take a leak? Do you have a truck, tractor, or other hydraulic equipment leaking or not performing as it should? At Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, we can get you back to work. Do you have a busted or leaking hose? Hydraulic cylinder or pump needing repair? If competitive pricing and a quick turnaround are what matter to your business, come see us at Reliable Hydraulic Solutions. Or you can give us a call at 850-326-3000. Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, 6840 Highway 77 in Southport. The best place in town to take a leak.
PCB Hobby, the beach's premier hobby store for sports cards, comics, coins, and trading card games. PCB Hobby carries the largest selection of boxes and packs from the latest releases of brands like Topps, Panini, Leaf, and more. Looking for a specific player or team? PCB Hobby has a wide assortment of raw and graded cards. They carry parallel rookie, game used, and autographed cards in both modern and vintage. Have a collection you want to sell? We buy, sell, and trade. PCB Hobby on Back Beach Road, just east of Florida Linen. Call 850-320-8388.
Pound the like and crush the subscribe. Follow us on social media for the latest sports news, scores, and updates. Keeping you in the game. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Getting used to this song yet, Coach Brian? Whenever we come into this segment, I'm playing your song.
You're riding post.
There you go. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. Want to remind you guys about the Women's Civic Club of Panama City Beach presenting the Diamond Jubilee Gala Dance and Charity Auction. You can celebrate 60 years of caring and sharing here in our community. Mingle with friends, dance, bid on auctions, and support a cause. That'll be Saturday, February 1st, 6 to 10 p.m. at the Boardwalk Beach Hotel and Convention Center, 9600 South Thomas Drive at Panama City Beach. For more information and sponsorship information, visit WCCPCB.org. I'm David Hazel, along with Coach Brian Haddad, and we've got a slew of guests in with us for the PCB Hobby Takeover. Todd, what is going on? And introduce our guests.
Happy Monday. You know who we have here. You got myself and the captain, and Julia is here, along with Chris. We call him Big Kern. Big Kern.
Big Kern. I didn't want to say the wrong name, but I figured that was Big Kern. What's up, Big Kern?
I'd say come into that mic close, but I'm not sure we can get it high enough for you.
He's our comic book specialist on staff, and he does a lot of streaming. I'm sure you guys, if you watch any of our PCB Hobby comic streams, you have seen him on there before. And on top of it, he is toy extraordinaire and everything collectible pretty much. So Chris is here in the house. We got a few anecdotes, a few stories, a few fun things, but we'll get into business right now. Julia, what do you got?
Yeah, so this week for organized play, as usual, we have on Thursday Lorcana and One Piece. We also have that Magic the Gathering Pauper League, which is kind of the newer one that we're doing every other week. On Friday, we have that Magic the Gathering regular Commander League. Saturday, we have a Lorcana set championship. So that's like a once every set kind of thing. So it's pretty cool. Definitely head out there if you love Lorcana. And then we also have our free play as usual on Saturday. Sunday, we are doing Pokemon. And last Saturday, we had our trade day. How was that, Brian?
It was very good. Had a lot of kids come out for that. The Super Saturday stuff was always great.
Right.
And, a lot of people taking advantage of, the deals on wax and coming out and ripping in the shop, which is always fun. But it's always fun to watch the kids kind of come in and learn about Pokemon and play, and they get so much excitement out of it. And it's just a ball to be around.
Right. So as always, that first Saturday of every month is going to be Kids Trade Day, and the second Saturday is Super Saturday. As far as product goes, this week we have Pokemon Prismatic Evolutions.
That's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Hot.
Very, 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 very limited.
Yeah. If I know about Pokemon, it's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, I mean, there's going to be a line outside the door when we open, probably on Friday. So definitely get there soon. We also have that Magic the Gathering Innistrad half set coming out on Friday as well. We do have, towards the end of the month, a full set for Magic coming up that's going to be called Aether Drift. So we're getting ready for that, getting ready to start ordering that. So we're excited for that one. We also have an exclusive comic out, and I'm sure Todd and Big Kern will talk about that a little bit more, but our artist in residence did the cover for this one, Lucky Devils. And it is out. There aren't a lot of Lucky Devils covers out, and if I'm a little biased, but I do have to say ours is kind of the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ours is the best.
Basically, we did an exclusive for Lucky Devils. It is done by Image, and they're basically commissioned through us, our resident artist Josh Lyman, to do the cover, and even the creator of the book posted out on one of the forums that he enjoyed that cover the best. So that was really cool. And then we also have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book coming out with Josh did the cover on that as well. That's coming out. Of course, there's different types of covers. There's what we call a virgin cover, a trade cover, and a foil cover. So there's three actually different covers with similar artwork on the front of each of those. And so we'll be doing a stream maybe in 2 weeks from now for Josh again with Big Kern, and we'll be also showing our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle books as well. So we got a lot going on with the comic stuff, and that's one of the reasons we brought Big Kern today, is because he actually did a specialty show with Brian. But before we get into that, what new products coming out for baseball, football, basketball?
Well, currently in the shop right now, we've got, for those of you Caitlin Clark fans, WNBA Monopoly Prism is out.
Wow.
And we actually have some blaster boxes in the shop.
Don't stalk her, though. Don't stalk her.
No, don't stalk her. That's in the other side of the news. Collect Caitlin Clark cards. Don't stalk Caitlin Clark, the player.
It's one of my worst of the weekends.
Yeah, it was a bad one. But the cards are really cool. It's Prism look. It's part of a Monopoly game. They did it with the men's basketball, and now it's out. So that's always fun. Getting new WNBA product is always fun, because not only do the guys like it, but it brings a lot of girls into collecting that maybe have not been before, and seeing their excitement at Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Aaliyah Edwards, all these players. It's fun. Bowman's Best University Football, college football fans. This is the product with patch autos of the college players. Really, really cool stuff. We actually had a Superfractor 1-of-1 dual auto hitting the shop the other night.
No way.
I know, because I hit it, and it was really cool. So that was neat, and it's just a wonderful product. 4 autos in a hobby box. It's really cool. Speaking of Bowman's Best, this Wednesday, Bowman's Best Baseball comes out. Another great product, prospects and stars. 4 autographs. Again, that'll drop on Wednesday. That's really the big release of this week. We had hoped that Hoops, which would be the first product of the 24-25 basketball season, would drop this week. It has been pushed back. A lot of Panini products have been delayed due to some issues with their printing facilities, but the issue is that Fanatics owns it, so that makes it interesting. But we should have that in the next couple of weeks. But a lot of big-time baseball and basketball products will be coming in the upcoming weeks. And, guys, we're only about a month away from maybe a month and a half from Series 1 2025 baseball. the return of Barry Bonds autographs.
I know, that's crazy.
First time he's signed.
I just got stronger thinking about that.
So, a lot coming out on the sports front. There's a lot of cool stuff that's in right now that's brand new, so come check it out.
That's good because we also have a huge new coin inventory. So what a lot of people don't know is the Fun Show was this last weekend. It's the Florida United Numismatist Show in Orlando, Florida every year. And I believe it was the 70th or 75th annual. Anyways, we went down to the coin show, a whole team of us. We loaded up on stuff. We have tons of inventory. So if you watch our PCB Hobby coin streams, know that we're going to be running all kinds of awesome inventory. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we did make it back safe. Everything's good to go, and we had a good time, which is why I wasn't here last Monday. If you guys noticed, I wasn't here. So anyways,
you weren't?
I was not. Thanks.
No, I didn't realize either.
Yeah, because Julia made the Monday so happy. We were good to go.
Awesome. Anyways, so we've been doing some really.
I think that hurt Todd a little bit.
Yeah,
a
little bit. That's okay. I got a tear. It's all right. But basically, we've been doing a lot of cool streams and a lot of cool stuff lately. Chris, Big Kern, did a Silver Age comic show on Friday. That was amazing. And then a lot of old books, a lot of 60s stuff. 60s, early 70s. A lot of people were on the stream for that. And then last Wednesday, one of the coolest shows we've ever done, and I'm going to let Chris and Brian talk about it. We did a Star Wars show. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Tell us about the Star Wars show on
I'm
eBay
still
Live.
catching up on sleep. I mean,
it was a long one, yeah.
It was great, though.
A lot of late 90s, early 90s sealed Star Wars product that you don't see in really good condition.
Yeah. It started with, we actually had a collection of cards come into the shop, and of course, we're fans.
Oh, yeah.
And so the cards were kind of cool. I mean, we don't deal in as much Star Wars card, but we've done some shows before when new products come out, and then we had a toy collection come in, and I was kind of like, yeah, this is kind of cool. Let's give it a shot, And
it was not just any toy.
Yeah.
It was like 6 bins.
So I called Kern. I said, "Is this? Do you think we could run this?" And he's like, "Let's do it." So we got the show scheduled for last Wednesday. We went on at I think 6 p.m. Central, and I think we finished
early. Because I was like, let's go 5:30.
We finished 20 minutes ago or whatever it was, but it was a great show. Like Kern said, we ran like almost 300 lots between cars, and a lot of them were combo lots.
And didn't someone just request to buy the entire bin and ship it in the bin?
Yes, we had an entire the large bins,
45-gallon tub.
Yeah. Just all loose. I mean, there's all kinds of things in there. We found a Spawn figure, okay, it's random. And so I just put up the camera on there and let her rip. And we had someone buy the whole thing.
Yeah. But it was cool. I mean, it was really, episode 1, you had some of the stuff from the expanded universe. You had some of the classic old things. You had some cards like 101. One of the coolest cards, and I didn't even notice this when we got it. You were the one who found it. Was signed by who?
Paul Rubens.
Who, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, please, I'm one of those.
Yeah, Paul Rubens did a voice for 24/17. He's a droid in the animated series. And I saw it and I was like, no way, dude. This is, it was out of 50.
Wait, David, you didn't know that?
So
I've
Paul
watched,
Rubens
one Star Wars
was also known as Pee Wee Herman.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so Pee Wee.
And recently deceased, so obviously not
So
no
it made
more.
it worth a little bit more.
Exactly.
He's also in Cheech and Chong, hamburger.
He's but that was really cool, and somebody very much wanted that, and I think it was the last item we ran.
Yeah, because we're like, I wanted that.
But and so we really found, I mean, it was a massive show. We had, I think, 600 different people check in through the night. I mean, it was unbelievable. So it's something we actually are looking at probably doing monthly going forward.
Absolutely.
Big Star Wars show.
If anybody has any thoughts or ideas about certain toy collections and certain toy streams that you guys would like to see, let us know, chime in, call David, say, hey, tell them to run this, tell them to run that. You call David as much as possible.
850-215-6290 is not my
So
personal
another
cell, so
thing-
it won't bother me.
Marvel. So when that new Marvel drops, that dropped in UK during the winter time.
Yes.
Once it drops here, I think we have a bunch of Marvel Legends, bunch of old Marvel sealed product toys. So look out for that one. That's going to happen for sure.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton. We actually have a couple storage units of toys, guys. We have Legos. We have all kinds of stuff. G.I. Joe action figures, just various things.
Vintage G.I. Joe.
Vintage G.I. Joe. The tall characters, soldiers and stuff like that. Before everybody in the 80s and 90s who had the small ones, they had larger G.I. Joes actually.
But, it was great. It was, we had all those people coming in. Kern and I were reminiscing about our thoughts. We had Star Wars music playing. We had a new product that came out, Star Wars High Tech, which is available at PCB Hobby. So it was a heck of a night. And look, I'm a big Star Wars nerd, so I had a blast.
Well, and this is
although it was way past my bedtime.
It got late. But I'm game.
This is a fun one though, because what's really cool is this weekend we're actually going to have Dave Dorman back at PCB Hobby at the headquarters streaming, and he is OG Star Wars comic books.
So ironically enough, the one comic book in the collection that we got that we ended up running was a Dorman.
It's a Dorman cook, yeah.
cover.
So Dave also did a lot of Magic cards. So if anybody is interested in meeting Dave Dorman at some point, let us know. We might set something up where he can come to the shop a little bit too and see y'all
do
and
some
stuff
signings.
like that. Do some signings because he does Magic cards too. He did a lot for Hasbro in back in the day, and so that's really cool. But we're gonna have him this Saturday and Sunday. We have 2 streams for PCB Hobby Comics. And
they start at 6 p.m. usually.
Yeah,
so.
but these ones are going to start probably on Saturday. We're probably going to start at 3, and then we're going to probably start around 1-ish on Sunday. Do a little bit earlier. Dave's got to get back, but other than that, it's going to be super fun. He's going to be doing signatures, remarks, all kinds of stuff, talking old stories, things that he's done in the past, and showing all kinds of really cool stuff.
And that's why everybody should go onto eBay Live because, look, obviously we'd love to be able to connect people with things that they want to buy and all like that, but just come watch the shows.
Oh, yeah, it's fun.
I mean, you'd have had a ball just listening to us cut up Wednesday night, having guys like Dave Dorman and these artists on. I mean, I watched one day. I mean, Guy Wiley's just talking nonchalant's drawing one of the coolest pictures I've ever seen in my life. The shows are really entertaining, really informational too, and just a ton of fun to see all the cool different stuff that we're running now on these streams.
I especially love it like when there's a couple of you guys streaming, so it's like almost like a podcast.
Yeah, when you team up,
or a radio show. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like that. That's why we really like the artist spotlight that we do with artists and Big Kern, because there's a lot of banter and questions, and you get to learn about people and things that are in the industry and what's going on, and of course what's available and what can be done.
He's very, very old school Star Wars artist. Like even it's funny, this year's 2024 Galaxy, there are a couple Dave Dorman cards.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So
he does all kinds of stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, they'll be on the lookout. You'll see. Oh, that's Dave. Like he has a print, and one of the new cards in that new set is available. It's pretty nuts.
All right, so I've got some questions on here. Normally, Dave's like, I always come up with the great stuff when Todd's not here and all that
and
stuff.
And then I came up with a great list of questions.
Yeah.
But it's okay because we can push this to next week.
No, but I do want to get one going because,
real quick, because we got a lot to get to with local.
We've had a ball talking sports and Star Wars and Pokemon. There's a bunch going on, but this is actually a great question. Todd, you just came back from the fun show. So
yes.
Coins, we got to talk coins. Good coin
what
sets.
What a fun acronym, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
I know.
Except none of us can spell whatever that.
Say it 3 times fast.
Exactly. 3 times fast. So good coin sets.
Now when I see that word, I know what it means.
Yeah. I was thinking about this because I am starting to get into it a little bit, and I understand gold and silver, but let's say good coin sets for those wanting to get into coin collecting maybe for the first time.
All right, for the first time, I always recommend for specifically a younger generation is do the Lincoln Penny set. They have Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3. Book 1 is 1909 to 1974, and then 1975 to, I believe it's 83 $386, something like that. And then of course they have the third one that's all the new stuff. But I recommend collecting the 1945 to at least 1958 wheat pennies because they're fairly obtainable, not in change, but you can go to any coin shop and get to look through their wheat pennies and put that together. And it kind of gets your mind into filling dates and mint marks and teaches you that type of thing.
And there's a bit of a treasure hunt element to it in a way, too.
Right.
So,
yeah, absolutely. Of course, the first book is the one that has some of the expensive coins in it.
That's pretty cool.
Next week, I want to dive into different strategies for the differences kind of in investing and collecting, especially when it comes to coins, kind of based
we can
in
do
that
coins
direction.
and comic books and sports cards, actually.
Yeah.
We'll
I figured that we would continue
because
to
there
kind
actually
of dive down.
I believe there actually is a method to the madness even in comic books and why you collect certain things and do certain things.
And I'd also like to, how do you keep some of these hobbies fun? Because there is that difference in investing and collecting, right?
That's an easy one. You come to PCB Hobby.
We'll discuss.
Oh, I know what you meant. Sorry.
No, absolutely. I think that's a great answer. You go to PCB Hobby, and if you haven't been down there to check out the actual store, of course you've got, just Google PCB Hobby. Type those words into your Google machine, and you will be finding them everywhere. But go check out the store, man, because it's just a great time.
May or may not have obtained a full-size autographed Bo Nix Denver Broncos helmet today.
And if that's not hot, I don't know what is.
I say may or may not because it may be gone by now. I don't know.
Julia, you want to hit us with another quick rundown, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So follow us on eBay Live at PCB Hobby. We have shows in sports cards, trading cards, comics, and coins. Those are running almost 24/7, so you're bound to find us somewhere. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram and Facebook to keep updated with all that's going on in the shop, and visit us in store at 11939 Panama City Beach Parkway, right by Florida Linens. So come see us, y'all.
All right, great stuff. That was absolutely a happy Monday with Todd, Julia, and Big Kern. Coach Brian Haddad and myself will keep it rolling. We're going to dive into our local scores, the games going on tonight, and best and worst of the weekend.
Sure we will.
I promise you that we will get to one of those three things, and if not, well, then I'm not coming back tomorrow. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. That was the PCB Hobby Takeover. Go check them out, man. I promise you won't regret it.
Weather in the Panhandle never stops. Turn to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with your latest forecast.
We're up to the minute weather reports all day long.
A chance of thunderstorms and moderate rain.
In-depth storm coverage.
Hurricane Helene.
And breaking weather as it happens.
We do have a tropical storm warning.
ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Construction is wrapping up on Panama City's newest oyster bar, the Local 115.
Opening soon on Harrison Avenue.
Local drinks, local sports, and local food. Delicious oysters, crab cakes, steamed seafood, gumbos, salads, paninis, wings, wine, and cold beer.
Nothing fried. That's right. No fried foods at Local 115.
Amazing local food with an exciting local sports and mural theme. Eat like a local at the Local 115.
Every love story deserves a perfect beginning. At Tracy's Fine Jewelry, we believe that your engagement ring should be as unique as your love. Explore our vast selection of certified natural and lab-created diamonds, each hand-picked for brilliance and beauty. Whether you desire the timeless allure of one of our hand-selected engagement rings, or you'd like to custom design the perfect ring, visit us today and let our experts guide you in finding the ring of her dreams, because love deserves the best. Tracy's Fine Jewelry, where love sparkles.
The Women's Civic Club of Panama City Beach is celebrating 60 years of caring and sharing in our community with the Diamond Jubilee Gala Dance and Charity Auction. Come out, mingle with friends, dance to great music, bid on fun auctions, and support a worthy cause. The Diamond Jubilee Gala Dance and Charity Auction is Saturday, February 1st from 6 until 10 at the Boardwalk Beach Hotel and Convention Center, 9600 South Thomas Drive. For details, visit the Women's Civic Club, WCCPCB.org.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Call in with your questions, hot takes, and rants at 850-215-6290.
I'm sure that most of you have used a dial telephone before.
The Sports Talk Monster.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
We've got to dive into it. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs in the Doghouse with David Hayes and Coach Brian Haddad. And this is ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. Coming up after the Afternoon Underdogs coverage starting at 6:30. We'll get you to Paul Feinbaum from 6 till 6:30. Then we'll get to the coverage for the Vikings and the Rams. And the kick will be tonight at 7 p.m. Got a lot of basketball coming your way as well. Tomorrow night it'll be Auburn. And then the following evening, we'll get you to the Magic, and I believe they're taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Best and worst of the weekend coming up after these local scores and stories in high school basketball from Friday evening. Bozeman getting a 3-point win over the Arnold Marlins, 48-45. Bay takes care of business against Rutherford, 69-58. Bluntstown over Sneeds, 57-39. And Florala beats Paxton, 50-44. In girls basketball, it was Bay beating Choctaw by 9, 41-32. Fort Walton Beach falls to Rutherford 59-52. Niceville beats Crestview 70-52. Paxton over Florala 57-10. And Mariana just falling by 1 point to Chipley 44-43. And boys high school soccer, Arnold blanking Mosley 6-0. Rutherford blanks Franklin 2-0. And Pine Forest over Bozeman 8-0. In girls high school soccer, it was Bay over Bozeman by a count of 3-1. Jefferson County beats Mariana by a score of 2-1. Tonight in girls high school basketball, 0-9 Bozeman visits 13-2 Rutherford, and they will tip here in about 14 minutes at Rutherford at 6 p.m. Arnold's traveling to Ponce de Leon. Arnold is 7-8. Ponce de Leon 7-4. They tip tonight at 7 p.m. In boys high school soccer, Mosley's traveling to Crestview. Mosley is 8-9-1. Crestview 1-11-1, and they kick off tonight at 7 p.m. And in girls high school soccer, 3-11 Rutherford Rams travel to Arnold, who is 9-5-1. They will start tonight at 6 p.m. And then North Bay Haven, 11-4-1, traveling over there to Tallahassee to take on Booker T. That is Tallahassee, or is that Pensacola? That's Pensacola.
Booker T's Pensacola.
Yeah, Pensacola.
Yep.
4-7-2, and they start tonight at 7:30. I'm going to save these other stories for tomorrow, actually. Out of Mosley basketball, though, senior Eli McFadder has reached 1,000 high school career points.
Wow.
He's reached a huge milestone there in the fourth quarter against North Bay Haven, and that is by WMBB's Carly Koskovich, I think is how you pronounce that. I haven't heard her last name read on the air, but I'm David Hayes along with
Say it
Coach
really
Ryan.
quickly. Nobody can tell if you get it right.
Yeah, there you go. Let's get into our best and worst of the weekend, though, and if we have time for our own personal ones, we will, but I promised you guys we would get to at least the Facebook comments. Amanda, who used to be on the show with us, she says, the Packers are out. And that was, she's a Bears fan, so that made a lot of sense. And the worst, Ohio State won, which we'll have some differing opinions, starting with Jim Baran. Ohio State beating Texas and getting to the Natty, says go Bucks. And Hairball losing with the Chargers. Talking about Jim Harbaugh. Losing with the Chargers to C.J. Stroud and the Texans. Cleveland Brad, what's up with all of these Ohio people here in Panama City?
Out of the woodworks.
Showing us love. Yeah, but thank you guys for the comments. I do appreciate them. Cleveland Brad says the Ohio State University beating Texas is easily the best. And the Cavs losing to my Pacers is unthinkable. Only their second home loss, the first time throughout the season that they've been held to under 100 points. Now the Pacers are on a 6-game winning streak. Cleveland still has the best record in the NBA, and those teams will rematch this coming Tuesday. Zach Lesnar says the worst unwatchable national championship. He's just like me. Two of his top hated teams are Notre Dame and Ohio State. I think that particular element makes this game more watchable for me. I don't care if I don't like you. I'm still going to watch you. It's the final college football game that I get to watch this season outside of the Senior Bowl. And let's be honest, that's not the same type of competition. Right. It's a great game. It's a great event. It's great for the Senior Bowl players. But this is the national championship. This is what we've been watching all season for. This is the culmination of the first ever college football playoff with 12 teams in it. And neither one of these teams, if we were in a 14 playoff, are in it. Did the 12-team college football playoff work? I think the numbers You know,
I think it was what I said when, we asked what do we think about it. I said, well, I think we finally got the 4 best teams.
Hey, there you go.
That's about all I think about it.
I liked it.
I like 8. But
I think that 8 would have been the right stepping stone. However, I think
would have been
12,
good last year too.
Right. I think that 12 gives them a little bit more flexibility.
Sure.
At the end of the day, it's better than 4. Either one of those numbers are better than 4. Zach's best is the Steelers getting beat in the first round. Again, I think Zach is a Dolphins fan. I think he's a fan of all things Miami. Coach Olds, great football, great SEC basketball. The worst, ticket prices for the college football championship, which I believe are around $2,000.
Yeah.
AG,
they're corporate outings at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the Super Bowl, which I had an opportunity to go with not to the actual game, but we had press passes to do the week. But then after everything that happened over there in New Orleans and the lack of money that I have, I was like, maybe we'll wait till next year in Atlanta. From AG, he said, I'll share my best with you on Wednesday. No worst, just second best. Louisville basketball in a 6-game win streak. Chef Ross, his best. I'm home from UAB because he had his total hip replacement, and they kept on holding him back. And, hey, he's out. He's on his way home. If not, he's home by now. So congratulations there to Chef Ross, and shout out to the doctor's crew who got that done for him. His worst, football is over in the house as the Pack, my team, and the Bucks, his roommate's team, each lost. Nick Baldwin, kind of alluding to Coach Olds' point. The get-in price for Natty tickets in Atlanta are just under $2,000. Honorable mention for the officiating, which I did not watch this game, but the Alabama-Texas A&M Aggies basketball game, which lasted just about as long as the Ravens and Steelers game did. The officiating, honorable mention for that. I think there was a lot of fouls called, probably in favor of the Crimson Tide. The best for Nick, Saturday's SEC. Actually, no, I guess with him saying it like that, he's an Alabama fan, so the fouls were probably called in favor of Texas A&M. That's just me assuming there. The best, Saturday's SEC basketball showdowns were way more competitive than the NFL. Leanne, the coach's daughter, she said best, McCarthy is out at Dallas, and the worst, Texas not getting it done against Ohio State. You got anything to say about those? No, we're moving right along.
No fan of Texas.
We might get through all of these, Coach Haddad. The best for Max Delyden. The Packers and the SEC, he puts in parentheses, Big 12 immigrant, are out. The worst, Tom Brady gets to spend quality time with Ben Johnson this week. How is that allowed? Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator for the Lions, one of the highly coveted coaches. A lot of Bears fans wanted Ben Johnson the last go-around.
Sure.
Now they're getting the opportunity for him again, but Tom Brady gets to spend quality time with him. Well, that's what happens when you're an owner and your name is Tom Brady. So, I think that's just how things go. Tim Adams comments underneath him, says, even better, Bears were never in. And Max says $55 million for that guy. Mike Jones says Auburn basketball is number 1. Kudos to them after Tennessee fell to Florida last week. Auburn's now number 1, and they look just like a number 1 team in the land. And his worst was the Broncos lost the wild card game to the Bills by a score of 31-7. And Bo Nix got off to a roaring start.
It was a great first 5 minutes.
Yeah, great first 5 minutes. And then even went into the half with an opportunity for a 50-yard field goal to tie the game at 10, and it just fell a tad bit short. And then from Kyle Wright, the best 2 really good college football games being the semifinals, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Texas. Worst, on the flip side of that, the adverse, some really bad NFL games, which I think Sunday we had 2 good games. Well, not really. I can't call the Packers and the Eagles a good game because there was a lot of turnovers by the Packers were lucky to be in that game as long as they were. And then how can you put together consistent drives when you're already out Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs goes down, Jalen Reed goes down.
Every 5 minutes they had somebody on the cart going to the back. That was rough.
Bountygate?
I don't know, but I mean, it was. If the Packers had won, they'd have been 15-point dogs because, I mean, how many players would they have had left? I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right there. Real quick, congratulations to your fantasy football champions from the Champions League. Dave Neat, runner-up. Oh, no, that's not you. We'll get to the runner-up for one of the leagues. The Afternoon Underdogs champion was Johnny Yankee Seed. The Inside Drive champion was Jeff Ledford. And the Coach James Hale Show champion was Keith Johnson.
Congratulations, Keith.
Followed up by Coach Brian Haddad, Nick Alley, and Jackson State Jeff. In the Inside Drive, the runner-ups were Ryan Mulvey, Seth Goldie, and James Lehman. The Afternoon Underdogs, the runners-up were Mark McLeod, Caveman Rick, and James Fife. And in the Champions League, the runners-up were Tim Reed, Dalton Cope, and Barrett Townsend. So those 16 individuals will make up the Champions League for next year. And we'll figure out, I'm going to try to get together with everyone via talking to them somehow or just right there at the draft to see, do we want to go to week 17 or week 18 next year. Some things that I'm going to do to kind of spice up, make the Champions League a little bit more competitive, maybe adding another flex or two to that, but we'll figure it out. I do want to get to my best and worst of the weekend real quick. Ty Johnson's catch in the Broncos and the Bills game, where he makes that catch with somehow keeping his feet above the turf, was just absolutely amazing. SMU women's basketball, they had a 32-point comeback versus Pitt. They were down 46-14.
Unbelievable.
They held Pitt to 0 points in the third. They ended up winning 72-59. That's the biggest comeback in Division I's basketball history in regulation. And then A.J. Brown, he was reading a book on the sideline yesterday. That book today is the #1 seller on Amazon. The book is Jim Murphy's Inner Excellence. Inner Excellence is the title. Jim Murphy is the author. That book, going into yesterday, was ranked 523,497th. And then A.J. Brown reading it on the sideline turned into the #1 seller.
It's the 2025 version of the Oprah Book Club. I mean, that's hilarious. How everybody jumped him over it was kind of dumb, but how cool is that it can launch, a book into,
and he's a mental health, specialist, kind of coach type deal.
So good for him.
And we spent a lot of time on Friday talking with Coach Ford about mental health, and we'll have him back as we always do, because I think that's such a huge thing, especially for us men, right? To be able to open up and talk about those things. My worst is Michael Lewis of Denton, Texas, was arrested on a felony stalking charge in Indianapolis on Sunday after he reportedly sent threats and sexually violent messages to Caitlin Clark via Twitter, according to court documents. It's a level 5 felony after he was arrested at a hotel in Indianapolis, and he is scheduled to appear in court tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we talk about how great it is that they're starting to get publicity in college basketball and the WNBA, and it is, and it's great for young women to see this, young girls see this and aspire. But we had the same thing. Paige Beckers had the same issue a year ago with it. Now, Clark, I'm sure it's not going to be the only one. Good gracious, we got to stamp these people out of society and hopefully don't have to deal with that, because we want these young girls to look at the fame and have that to aspire to and not be scared to death to become famous.
And we're out of time basically, but even in our neck of the woods, you're starting to see it. Whenever I look at the news websites, you're starting to see it left and right in our school systems, for crying out loud, in our church systems, and I don't think that you're ever going to,
You'll never completely eradicate it, but
eradicate was the word I was looking for. But come on, man,
that was disturbing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're out of time. Just remember, Jesus loves you, so do I, and we're a little bit a ways from the NFL draft. But Coach Brian, the Titans.
My best of the week was the Titans didn't play.
The new app from 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is designed specifically for